Everyone, welcome to today's live stream. I'm Shen, your host from the OneBlock community. Before we get started, let me quickly introduce OneBlock and the topic for today's session. OneBlock is a talented treasure trove in the blockchain space, and we are the leading substrate developed community globally. We offer mailing technical articles, development courses, and events like workshops and hackathons to help developers dive deep into substrate technology and explore the infinite potential of Web3. Plus, we provide technical support and talent resources for Web3 projects, helping you quickly build the future of open networks with Substrate. Today, we are diving into the current status of Polkadot's development. We are excited to have Sarah from the Web3 Foundation joining us today to share her insights. Sarah had tons of experience in Web3 ecosystem development, so you're in for a great session. She will be covering four key areas. The first one is the basic knowledge. The second one is Polkadot 2.0. The third one is the recent developments. And finally, we were talking about the ecosystem. If you have any questions during the talk, feel free to post them in the comments. At the end, we will have a Q&A session during which Sarah will go through your questions in order. All right, enough for me. Let's hand it over to our fantastic guest. Sarah, could you share something about your background with us?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear and see me?
Okay.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Seraya. Nice to meet you all. I've been with the foundation for a bit more than 3 years. I have a technical background, so before I used to be a software developer, both in Web 2 and in Web 3. And for the past 3 years, I've been working in ecosystem development and in grants. So the team I'm working with runs the Web3 Foundation grants program and also the Decentralized Futures program, along with other initiatives at the Web3 Foundation. And of course, as you all know, the Web3 Foundation main project is currently Polkadot. And that's also why we meet today, because I'm going to talk a bit about Polkadot and Polkadot 2.0 in particular. So yeah, I hope that's useful. Should I cover anything else?
Yeah, you can talk something about I like the basic knowledge about Polkadot or something about the Polkadot 2.0.
Sure, yeah. So I have prepared a presentation. I'm not sure, should I share the link with you or should I just share my screen? Is it possible to share my screen?
Okay, you can share your screen. I will start it.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Let's do that. Just one moment. Yes. Just one. Okay. Okay. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so let's get started. Mostly I'm going to be talking about Polkadot 2.0, but first I will cover some basics, and then I will cover some other recent developments and also the ecosystem. Right. So first, let's start with the basics. So what is actually Polkadot? Polkadot is not just a blockchain, it's actually a whole network of blockchains. And in the center of the whole network, we have the Polkadot relay chain. Here you can see the blue circle in the middle. It illustrates the Polkadot relay chain. And it acts as a point of connection for all the other nodes in the network and all the other layer 1 blockchains in the network. And all these blockchains, they run on WASM, and they're all developed with the same SDK, the Polkadot SDK. So in a sense, they have very similar technology, but of course, they all have different needs. They have different specialization, and they have completely different logic that is custom to their business case. Then here is a quick overview of the architecture. So quite similar as before. You can see in the middle there's the relay chain and the parachains around, and with the validators and the collators. And so the cool thing about this model is that the parachains, they don't have to run their own large decentralized network of nodes. It's enough to just have a few, just in order to run their logic and to connect to the relay chain. So we call this concept shared security. So they are actually able to leverage the security from the relay chain. And that means that each of these parachains, so each of these layer 1 app chains, has the same economic security as the Polkadot relay chains. So they are backed by billions of dollars of security. And right, and then on top of that, we have other protocols that enables those parachains to talk to each other, and also bridges that enable them to talk to other chains outside of the Polkadot ecosystem. So as you can see, Polkadot, the Polkadot network is built with interoperability in mind. So both within the network, but also on a wider scale. So meaning enabling interoperability with other ecosystems. I'm checking the questions. I can unfortunately not read Mandarin. So in case if you have questions, please ask, but
Okay.
I would need somebody to translate for me.
Okay, Sarah then translate what you said in the comments. So for helping our students to understand.
Oh, okay. So I will just ignore, right?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, sure. Yeah, go on. Okay. Then here we have a diagram that illustrates the difference between a layer 1, like a conventional layer 1, and a layer 1 on Polkadot. And I want to emphasize that doesn't necessarily apply to every single layer 1 in the Web3 space, but it applies to most. So that's more of a rule of thumb on the left side. Of course, the right side, the Polkadot layer 1, it will apply to all the Polkadot layer 1s. So on the left side, you can see that conventionally, layer 1s, they need to have their own validator set. This is what we have talked about before. So that means that there is a lot of effort and a lot of also money related to that, because in order to bootstrap your own validator set, of course, you need a lot of resources and a strategy on how to find the people that actually want to run these validators. Then typically so conventional layer 1s are more of general purpose chains, so the specialization is typically low. Thinking of maybe Solana or Sui or Aptos or Ethereum, of course. Chains like that, they act as smart contract platforms, but they don't have high specialization. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay, right. Then the third characteristic of a conventional layer 1 is they usually cannot easily interoperate, right? So they cannot easily talk to other chains. And when it comes to Polkadot layer 1, if you launch one on Polkadot, you're gonna have security from day one because you have this concept of shared security. And because it's much cheaper and more economical and easier to run a Polkadot layer 1 chain when compared to a conventional layer 1 chain, typically these Polkadot layer 1 chains also have very high specialization. So the logic they run is highly application specific. Another benefit is interoperability. We already have covered that before. And yeah, other benefits are shared consensus. So they share the consensus with each other and with the relay chain, which makes it easier to interoperate between each other. Of course, the validator set is already decentralized and has a very high Nakamoto score, so among the highest in the industry, and it's very low fee because it's a very efficient model. And then what both layer 1 types would have in common is security. So that of course is assuming that the conventional layer 1 chain, we're comparing the Polkadot layer 1 chain to, has a sufficiently large validator set, meaning they have also a lot of economic security that backs them and secures them. And of course, we assume that the code is robust. And both of them have a custom runtime. And that's usually what projects that want to run a layer 1 chain want to have, right? They want to have a custom runtime. They want to have the flexibility that goes beyond what is possible with conventional smart contracts. Then what else is Polkadot? So Polkadot is not just a network, it's also a community and a DAO. So OpenGov and the Treasury is arguably the world's biggest DAO. There have been over 1,400 referenda so far where people can vote. So whenever somebody want to change like a parameter in a protocol or want to update the version of Polkadot, or if they want to get some money for an initiative they want to run, then they can submit a referendum, and then each token holder can vote on this. So another cool thing about this is that once a referendum is accepted, it will be activated autonomously. So there is no group of people, there's no multisig that kind of governs this body. This is all programmed, right? So once enough people vote for it, after a waiting period, the update will be activated or the money will be paid out, depending on what kind of referenda it is. Currently, there are over $165 million of assets in the treasury, and that includes a lot of different assets. So of course it includes dots, but also stable coins and other tokens. Then during the last year, so during 2024, around $133 million have been spent for a variety of different use cases. Some of the more popular examples include the Delhi Indy 500 sponsorship. So that's a race car competition in the USA. the development of Snowbridge, the first bridge that bridges Polkadot with Ethereum, and also the fellowship, so the group of developers, of core developers, is paid through OpenGov and the treasury as well. And another more recent example is the spamming. So for those who haven't heard of it, that was an initiative where the limits of Polkadot or the Kusama network in particular was tested by sending around a lot of transaction. And it was kind of a competition to see how many transactions per second can be reached. And they ended up with, how much was it? I think around 140,000 transactions per second, which is by far the highest number that has ever been reached in any live blockchain network. So I think Solana is talking about theoretically 65,000 transactions per second, but that's just theoretical. In their network, they actually have reached only a fraction of that. And yeah, well, we're by far the most performant or the network with the highest throughput. So we can process the most transactions per second in a live network. So this, as you can see, it's already a very scalable network, very scalable technology. Most of what is deployed now is already Polkadot 2.0. In fact, I will talk about all the core features of Polkadot 2.0 as part of this chapter. So, of course, we have Beefy. So Beefy is a trustless bridging protocol. Actually, it's in particular, it's a light client protocol. So the way this bridge works is by having light clients on the Ethereum blockchain, a Polkadot light client on the Ethereum blockchain, and the Ethereum light client on the Polkadot blockchain. And both of them, they can talk to each other. So these light clients, they are programmed and deployed as smart contracts. And the really cool thing about this concept is that it makes bridging completely trustless. And that's actually a first in the space. So as far as I know, there is no other bridging protocol that can operate completely trustless. And currently we have two bridges that operate on this protocol. So the first is called the Snowbridge. So Snowbridge, it doesn't have any extra trust assumptions. It runs on a separate parachain. It's called the Bridge Hub parachain. And currently it can bridge to Ethereum. And as I mentioned, it runs completely permissionless, and it uses trustless relayers to enable the communication between the two networks. It's governed by the relay chain, and it's OpenGov funded, and it's already live. So you can use it today. Then the second bridging protocol is Hyperbridge. Hyperbridge is also based on Beefy, and it's also completely trustless. And internally, it works a bit differently because it's based on a CK-based prover. They have transfers that are a bit quicker. So they say they can transfer within 5 to 7 minutes. It's multi-chain, meaning it's not just bridging to Ethereum, it's also bridging to other chains such as like Cosmos or Optimism, Base, Arbitrum. And wait, let me think. I'm not sure what I meant with own rollup secured by Polkadot. But anyway, yeah, I think because it's also running as a parachain. Yeah, that's basically what it means. So similarly to Snowbridge, it's running as its own parachain, right? Yeah. Then another feature of Polkadot 2.0 is asynchronous backing. So an asynchronous backing plus other optimizations. Basically, I'm not gonna go into detail on how it works, but basically it enabled Polkadot to increase the throughput by a factor of around 10x, roughly 10x. So meaning the block space is 10x bigger than before. Yeah. So of course, that's a good thing. And another feature is asset conversion on Asset Hub. So that's a Uniswap style exchange where you have liquidity pools. It's deployed on the Polkadot Asset Hub. And the cool thing about this is that it actually allows you to transfer stable coins without the requirement of owning any native token. So that means you can transfer USDT, for example, and pay the transaction fee in USDT as well. So that's very useful for adoption. Although right now we don't have any, let's say, Web3 kind of, Web2 kind of project that is doing a lot of volumes with this technology, but I think there's a lot of potential for that because the fees are low and people don't need to own a native token because when they send a transaction, they can just exchange a small portion of their stable coin to the native token to pay the network, but this complexity is hidden from the user. So yeah, very cool feature and it's completely trustless. There is an open source library that supports this concept already. I linked it below. I will also share the slides so you can check it out later if you're interested. And most wallets do not support this feature yet, at least not in the wallet itself, but with this library, it's possible to support it. And I think Nova Wallet recently added support for sufficient assets. It's a term. It's what it's called to pay that that enables payment of transaction fees in a stable coin or in any other sufficient asset. Yeah, then another interesting thing about the treasury is that it's multi-asset and there are sub-treasuries. For example, there is a sub-treasury for the fellowship. And this is where the money comes from to pay the core developers. So even core developers that develop a lot of the technology that we work with, they are paid by the DAO, right? That's pretty unique. I'm not aware of any other ecosystem that has anything similar to that. Yeah, then another cool feature of Polkadot 2.0 is Agile Core Time. So Agile Core Time allows these parachains to be more flexible. Because before, if you're familiar with the concept before, they had to win a parachain auction. And usually those slots were quite expensive. So in order to secure their chain for a duration of usually around 1.5 years, I think, or 2 years. They had to come up with a lot of money that they would then lock, and they would get it back after the lease, but it was still a lot of money to raise. And of course, there's a lot of volatility. So those parachains that bought a slot when the DOS price was really high, they paid millions of dollars, right, in order to secure the lease. And now what's possible with Agile Core Time, this whole model changes to an on-demand model. So instead of requiring parachains to secure a slot for the next 1 or 2 or whatever years, they can just buy core time from the market, and they can buy it for like a month and then renew on a rolling basis. Or if they don't even want to secure their chain in every single block, because depending on the use case, it might not be necessary, they can just buy it from the secondary market. And those that buy from the primary market and do not use all the cores, meaning they don't want to secure their chain in every single block, they can then also sell this privilege to the secondary market. So the whole Agile Core Time marketplace, it's all tokenized. So those are all NFTs. So each NFT is a core. And because it's NFTs, it's easy to transfer it to somebody else, meaning you would transfer the right for securing a parachain slot to the relay chain at a certain block height, right? So yeah, I think this is probably my favorite feature of the Polkadot 2.0 release, because this actually allows smaller projects also to have a parachain and to get started with a smaller allocation. Maybe they can just secure their chain every day, or whenever, I don't know, they reach a certain volume, something like that. And then once they grow, they can, of course, secure more often and hence get more security from the relay chain. Yeah. Then the next step will be to have Agile Core Time with elastic scaling. So elastic scaling is another Polkadot 2.0 feature, and that's the only that hasn't been shipped to the Polkadot network yet, but it should be shipped soon. So currently it's live on Kusama, and it should be launched on Polkadot in Q1 as well. And basically what it does, it will allow parachains to consume more than one core if they need additional resources. So for some chains that make a lot of volume, maybe one core is not enough. Maybe they need more than one core. So once elastic scaling is live, they can do that, meaning they can increase the block space for their parachain using elastic scaling. Yeah, then recent developments. So this was actually in December. That's the spamming that I mentioned earlier. So I think here they did 128,000 TPS, but I think later they even did like around 140,000 TPS. And yeah, the really cool thing about this is that AM Force, I hope I pronounce this correctly, but those guys, they are like a node operator, so they're just one community member, so it's not us, the foundation. It's not like officially Parity or foundation or anybody like that did that. It's completely a community effort. And they went to the treasury and they asked for some funds in order to execute this spamming initiative. And then after the first iteration, people liked it so much that they did a second iteration, and then they reached this 140,000 TPS. Yeah, so really cool, and it shows that anybody can get involved. You just need to have a good idea, and then you can convince the community to do great things. Because before this spamming initiative, we didn't have any notion of TPS, or we didn't have any idea how many TPS can we actually deliver, right? Now we have a pretty good idea. And of course, a lot of people, especially core devs, are arguing that TPS is actually not a very useful notion, because depending on the type of transaction, the space, the block space used for the transaction will vary a lot. And that's true. I agree with that. But another reality is also that everybody, or a lot of people, at least in the space, are always talking about TPS. And it is a simplification of reality, but it still relates to reality, and it's still in people's minds. So to get an idea, like a rough idea of the scalability of a network, it's still good to know about TPS. That's at least my belief. Yeah. Then Polkadot 3.0 is already being worked on. So this is what we call Jam. And the Web3 Foundation also has a prize for 10 million dots. So that's currently, what is that like? I didn't check the price, but probably between 40 and 50 million dollars. And that people that work on these implementations can get. Currently, we have 40 Jam clients that are being worked on. So 40 teams working on implementations for Polkadot 3.0 already. Yeah, this 100 million, it's an outdated number. That was when dot was a bit higher. But yeah, Parity initial client, I think, was recently released. Not that recent, end of November. But yeah, so with Jam, there are a lot of changes. It will become even more scalable, and kind of the core will become transactionless and more efficient. And there are a lot of new concepts that are going to come, but yeah, that's for another day. Yeah, then last but not least, I want to talk a bit about the wider Polkadot ecosystem, because now we've just talked about the tech, right? So you're probably curious, what else does the Polkadot ecosystem have to offer? And here are some case studies. So we have Mythical Games. Mythical Games is one of the biggest Web3 gaming studios, and they are partnering with FIFA and NFL to develop various games. So the NFL rival game is already online. The FIFA one, I'm not sure if it's already online. If not, then it's for sure launching soon. We have Energy Web, so that's the world's largest energy blockchain ecosystem. We have Beatport Group launching on Aventus, which is a Polkadot parachain, and they have over 60 million music pieces that they want to tokenize. We have Deloitte, KYB, and KYC DIDs, which are live on the Kilt parachain, and they're used, for example, also in the Polymac protocol. And we have Peak Network, yeah, one of the biggest and most famous DeepIn networks. I think they have way more than 3 million devices integrated by now. These numbers are outdated. And so those are all parachains, right? Or products that build on parachains. But Polkadot is actually more than just the network. It's a whole ecosystem. And although all the parachains are developed with Polkadot SDK, not all the Polkadot SDK based projects are actually parachains or not even part of the Polkadot network. So there are a lot of other networks that are using the same stack or that are leveraging the Polkadot SDK. One of them is BitTensor. Another one is LF0, Starknet, Madeira also is using Polkadot SDK. Then Edgeware and Veil, Cardano Midnight as well, and XX Network, and also Octopus. So those are just some of the most famous ones. We have there are smaller projects as well, but yeah, those are the most commonly known projects that use the same tech stack. Yeah, so that's about it. If you are interested in getting funding for your project, then you can apply on our webpage. So you can see here, grants.web3.foundation. For those who want to implement some Jam stuff, it's jam.web3.foundation. And of course, there is also the treasury. And if you have questions, you can also contact us at grants@web3.foundation. Okay, I hope this was useful, and that's it from my side. Thanks a lot.
Yep, thanks to Sarah. Yep, you provide so much valuable information and explain everything clearly. I'm sure that students today got a lot of it. Your deep knowledge about the Web3 ecosystem and the Polkadot has opened up a really new perspective for us. A really huge thanks to you and for today's work. Now we're jumping into the Q&A session. If our students have any questions, don't be shy. Drop them in the comments now, and Sarah will answer your question individually. So, who would like to ask the first one? Okay, wait a second. We have a question from Hai asking about your personal investment. So let's hear what you want. You thanks. The question one is 2025 is a year full of big expectations. Sarah, what are your investment directions this year? Are there any projects you can share with us?
You mean what projects are building on Polkadot?
No,
right?
some personal investment.
Investment.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they want you to share some projects.
Yeah, you shouldn't trust me when it comes to investing because
Yeah.
I'm very miserable in that. So probably we
Okay.
should skip this question. Yeah.
Okay. So the second one, yeah, there has been a lot of talk lately about the widening gap between VC and retail. As a developer, how should we make career decisions? Is really getting harder to raise VC funding for our projects.
I think if you're a developer and you think about getting VC funding, I think it's better to first get a grant, because if you go to the VC directly, then, well, either you don't have anything to show yet, or you have to finance everything by yourself. So getting a grant first is better usually, because then you can it enables you to create an MVP or a proof of concept, and then raising money with that piece of code is much easier than raising money with an idea. Because if you just have an idea, then first of all, the risk will be much bigger for the VC. So they're less likely to give you funding. And even if they decide to give you funding, they will take a bigger portions of the shares or of the tokens when compared to a project that already has a running piece of software, right? So I think, yeah, it's always better to get a grant first.
Okay, so could you share some information about how to get grants in Polkadot or in the Web3 Foundation?
Yeah, sure. So you can check out the webpage, grants@web3.foundation. And
Okay.
there you can find all the information on how to apply. It will just be a markdown document that you have to fill with your information. And then you can make a pull request on GitHub, and then we're going to review and give you feedback if you think it's a good idea. And if it's a good idea, then either you will get funding, or maybe we'll ask for some changes to make it better before we approve the application. And depending on the nature of the project, there are other programs as well. So recently not we as a foundation, but the ecosystem also has created an open source bounty. So if your idea is related to open source, meaning more of a common good kind of project that maybe is not very suitable for VC funding, then maybe will be more suitable for applying to that bounty. I can share the information as well. Just give me a minute. I will share it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So it's really a new perspective for us. We might not have considered yet.
Sorry?
Yeah. We are talking about this a really new perspective a lot because we might not have considered yet. Yeah. From get money from the grants or raise money from communities, maybe better than we got the VC funding. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think initially at least. So of course we're not gonna give you millions of dollars. So that's
Yeah.
not our goal and not our purpose, right? Our purpose is
Yeah.
to give you something to start with, so you can go to VC after if it's a commercialized project, or if it's an open source kind of project, then you can come to us, or you can also go to the open source grants program. And there are a lot of examples of projects that are not commercialized, so they wouldn't be able to raise money from a VC, but they are able to get money from the treasury, right? If it helps the community, if it's some kind of technology that really helps the community and is really useful, then the treasury and the DAO, OpenGov, basically, is very likely to fund it. Yeah.
So for our students, could you all please let us know in the chat if you are already familiar with to get the grants or some community? Yeah, we are waiting for our students. 我们的学生，就是目前正在做项目，然后可能就是正在启动中，需要筹集资金的嘛。然后我们也可以面对面的跟 Sarah 沟通一下，就是如何去快速启动。如果有的话，可以在这个聊天区，或者是直接上麦来沟通。Okay, so I think that They're waiting for you to share something about to start a project quickly.
To what?
To start a project quickly, like to do the marketing or to do some MVP.
Sorry, what is the question? I didn't understand.
They want to get some knowledge about how to do the marketing for their projects.
The
For
marketing.
the projects, and yeah.
Yeah, for the marketing, I mean, that's there is no universal answer to that, I guess.
Yeah.
Depends very much on the need of the project and the type of the audience. Of course, you always have to think, who is your customer? What problem are you solving? How can you talk to them? How can you reach out to them? And how can you explain them that what you're building for them is actually useful? So all of these kind of things. Currently, we don't have a program that supports with that. So our funding programs, they are mostly for supporting the technical side. Yeah, we do have different communities, and we have, for example, also a marketing agency in a decentralized team, Distractive, right? They do support other projects sometimes, but I mean, for early stage projects, that's probably not realistic, or yeah, that's not the case for early stage projects. So yeah, you would have to think about that yourself, basically. And
okay, thank you.
yeah, but it really depends on the nature of the project, I think. Yeah.
Okay, I think we are going to the end of the Q&A session. Again, really thanks to Sarah for your amazing talk and thoughtful answers. And
Thanks for having me.
Everyone for our active participation. I'm sure today's session gave you all a deeper understanding of the Polkadot ecosystem. Don't hesitate to contact me if you are looking for a job or recommend opportunity. OneBlock is here to help you. Before we finish, just a quick reminder. The Substrate Blockchain Development Introduction Class Session 17 course, co-hosted by OneBlock and Polkadot, is now open for registration. In just 15 minutes, you can build your custom blockchain and dive right into the Polkadot ecosystem. If you are interested in, scan the code to learn more and sign up. I will share this all for you. Wait a second. Yeah, I will post it. Okay. So you can scan and sign up. That's all for today's event. Thank you all for being here, and really thank you again to Sarah. We will be sharing the recording of this session shortly. See you all next time.